Hey, what's happening? Happy Saturday. It's Daryl here. It's bright and freaking early, 5 a.m. here in Connecticut on the East Coast. Okay, today was one of those days where I get backed up. I get up about 2:30, and I start looking over news feeds, looking for a topic that appeals to me, that sticks out, that I feel strongly about. And usually I pick one out in about 45 minutes. Other days, like today, I'll keep looking. And when I do that, it's always a mistake. When I go into like 2 hours looking through different topics and news feeds, far left, far right, the mainstream, and I start getting the stories mixed up. I pick one story, I download all the links, I get all the names written down. But then when I keep going, I start writing down more links and more names and more different places, and I end up with just a hodgepodge. About 2 hours later, I end up with just a hodgepodge of nonsense, and that was today. Okay, so what did I do? I decided to go into, because I couldn't make my mind up on any of my regular stories, I decided to just look into, like, far right, see what the wild wingnut far right was talking about. Because this story I'm going to talk about wasn't on any of the normal news feeds. And there's a good reason, too. I'll get to that in a second. So it's about Biden shaking hands with thin air. It's a big story today. He put his hand out. North Carolina, real quickly, he put his hand out. It's a shot from just one angle, and you can't make out a whole lot. It's just him on finishing up his speech. He turns, he goes, well, to be fair, he goes like this. He goes to the side, and then he goes, and then he turns, and he goes the other way. Big story. Honestly, this is kind of stupid. These days, I hate to bring this up, but I'm getting concerned about a seriously, like World War III, like a nuclear war. They're talking about Putin, the possibility of him using low yield nuclear weapons because of his losses in Ukraine. And this stuff, seriously, stuff like that's on my mind. I honestly started thinking if I should start stocking up on like canned food and water or anything like that. If something serious is going to come down the pike. And this is the big story. This is the big story that I find in the far right news feeds. Biden shakes hands with thin air. Big story. All right. So that's it. That's it. The problem with this story is you can't see anything else. It's a very narrow shot. You can't see what he's looking at. You can't see either side of the stage. To me, and I am biased here. Of course, I am biased, but to me, it looks like he probably normally assumes he's going to turn right and go off the stage. To me, it looks like his path was blocked. That's the way it appeared to me right off the bat. It looked like his path was blocked, like he was, it's impolite to point, instead of going like that, I think he just went, like, is this my exit? Like there was no path there. I do not, like I said, I'm biased, but I do not think in any way, shape, or form was he in a dementive state, thinking he was shaking hands with somebody. That I don't see it, man. To me, it looks like he was like, am I going this way or am I supposed to go this way? And you could look at that as, people get confused. You could look at that as confused or whatever. You know what? If I was up on that stage, I guarantee I would make mistakes daily. But anyway, and then he turns and he goes off the other side of the stage. And you could read this as he's 79 years old. He's moving a little slow. Granted, you know what? But the more I thought about this, the first thing that came to my mind was Donald Trump. The eclipse. Staring into the sun. Do you remember that? You remember? We're told. I remember being told. I don't know. I know there was eclipses or partial eclipses, going back to like when I was 10 years old. I think, and we're told. First thing we're told. Do not. They just repeat this over and over again. Do not stare into the sun. Do not stare into the sun. And Trump, a matter of fact, I'll use the pictures. He didn't just do this once. If you remember, I can't remember exactly what year this was. It was 2018, but I'll have the link down below to that story too. Not just once does he look up, but he looks up twice, then 3 times, squinting, staring up, staring at the sun. You know what this reminded me of right off the bat? It reminded me of the story that sometimes chickens drown because they feel rain coming down and they stare up and their mouth fills up with water and they drown. I don't know if that's true or not, but I heard this. I remember hearing this story when I was a kid, that chickens are so stupid that when they feel rain come down, they stare up, their mouths, their beaks fill up with water and they actually drown themselves. That's what this Donald Trump staring at the sun reminds me of. Just honestly, I would much rather have an older, you know what, a little slower moving, maybe a little slower to process. I would much rather have him than an arrogant, lying narcissist who stares into the freaking sun. Okay. Going back to staring at the sun, though, you know what this reminds me of? You know, he knows he's not supposed to stare at the sun. It reminds me of the story I did yesterday, and the one I did about the petromasculinity. Yesterday, I did the story about Frank Nicely, Representative Frank Nicely, Tennessee, talking about how he doesn't smoke, but he doesn't think it's right to go into a bar and not have yourself clouded in other people's secondhand smoke. He says he grew up like that. And look at him, you know, he's just a picture of health. And again, it's just this bizarre MAGA, America First, pseudo masculinity, where they think it's macho to do things that are blatantly unhealthy because somehow their super muscles and masculinity, their testosterone will block them from any damage. You know, I guarantee you that's what, with Trump staring at the sun, that's what it was. Or, you know, or he was blessed with the Trump genes, and somehow the solar rays aren't going to affect his super Trump eyes, just like Superman or something. You know, that's what this reminds me of. So you look at Biden, you know, and to me, man, it just looks like he was singling. Like, am I supposed to go off the stage here? No, and he turns around. You know, like I said, in this day, when we're seriously talking about World War III, a very real possibility of Putin releasing low-yield nuclear weapons, and they're talking about Biden shaking hands with thin air. This is the far right. All right, I'll have the links down below. You guys have a great Saturday.